Joining us for this week's BRANDT Report is Ed Corrigan, Technical Agronomist with BRANDT. And Ed, we're going to start this report not by talking about growing per se, growing conditions out there, but soil conditions overall. And with your work with NREC and the report most recently from NWatch, there's some good news stories to talk about.
So this is one of the years that has been really hard to figure out, anticipate, you might say, what is going to happen. We started out with an early harvest last fall, Rita, and that allowed for the soil to mineralize a lot of nutrition, and we ended up with a fairly moderate winter. Along with that moderate winter came one of the heaviest rainstorms in the month of December, and that shed a lot of nitrogen off into some of the lakes and streams, and there was a concern by us in the ag community. So NWatch has done a great job of documenting what the N levels in the soil is and how much of it was attributed to what farmers applied and how much was created by Mother Nature when she mineralizes organic matter into nitrogen, and that nitrogen's very leachable, very mobile. And what we're seeing currently now is that as we move into the spring season, the nitrogen that the growers applied last fall has been very stable and for the most part, stayed right where they put it. And now, because the soil conditions are so good, the soils are flocculated, we call them, where they've got a lot of air in them and some moisture, that has started to allow, as the soils warm up to 50 degrees and above, the microorganisms release a lot of nitrogen, and therefore we have tremendous nitrogen readings. And we know through these samples that we no longer need to apply huge amounts of nitrogen as if we lost some. So we've really got some great data coming out of some of the work that NREC, grower-funded programs, to allow us to understand how to manage our nutrition for our crop of corn or soybean. Been very good for the environment and very good for the grower.
Just super news. You also mentioned kind of a nice way to talk about the plants telling you how they're doing out in the field.
Today, when we go out into the research farm or into a grower's field, we're starting to see some green up of those plants. And those green up is really from the bottom leaves of the corn plant. If it's 3 or 4 leaf tall now, and we're starting to get some size to the corn, it's starting to green up from the bottom, and that tells us that there's lots of nitrogen there. If it was low amounts of nitrogen in that corn plant, it'd be yellow on the bottom leaves and greener in the top. Well, with it being the exact opposite and the top being yellow, that's telling us that it's a more mobile nutrient like sulfur, and that we need to really be responded in it. And we've just seen within the last few days some of the work from some of those professors indicating that sulfur is becoming, in the state of Illinois, a real issue that needs to be applied each and every year, and that's what the corn plants and I think the soybean plants, when they starts to emerge, they'll be telling us the same thing, that dark green color comes from having enough sulfur, and when it's highlighted yellow, we need to figure out a way to supply a little bit of sulfur to get the efficiency out of that other nitrogen and other nutrients out there.
And as we close, anything I didn't ask that you think is pertinent for growers this week or in the weeks ahead as we go through this season?
So as I think about what we're seeing at the research farm and in the trials, if we want to take advantage of all this nutrition, and we just need to continue to balance it out correctly. Hopefully we've got a good solid population of corn, and our soybean plants are up and running. The next things to really watch are going to be as we put on our post-emergence herbicides to control weeds and keep those pests out of there, that we focus in on some of these micronutrients. Those are going to be the game changers for the very high yields versus just the mediocre yields.
Ed Corrigan, BRANDT